So premise identification, or PID. This is a unique identifier associated with a geographic location. This is an actual printout from the system. We use Google Maps, very high tech. And what we do is we identify the premise based on the information that we are provided by the owner or the leasee or the operator. You can do this online, or you can do it paper copy. We encourage people to do it online because it's a faster turnaround, less manpower hours, but it also gives you the ability to be a lot more accurate, and it gives you the ability to maintain and manage your own account moving forward, which is great, and you're going to see why. Alberta has implemented a comprehensive premise registry. Is it 100% complete? No. That's part of the reason why we're here talking to you guys. And it's an electronic system with unique mapping capabilities. As a quick side note, there's a few people from Saskatchewan and BC. The premise ID system you're using is the Alberta system. So we struck up a deal, sold it for $1, and all the improvements that are made by any of the Western provinces we share, with the belief that we really do need to have an integrated system, right? We have an integrated industry, so the system should be similar. We assign a PID number to a location, not people or company that own it. That is absolutely critical. When CCIA first came out and started assigning PID numbers, they were assigning it to the person, not the land. So for those of you that have been in the business long enough, you know, for a while we were grandfathering and changing numbers. This is why. Because it has to be the land. That's what we're interested in. No disrespect to the people. The unique numbers are assigned to legally surveyed parcels of land. So we tie into Alberta land titles. Every province has their own system they tie into, so that's why it takes a bit of time. People have often said, why can't you use your legal land description? Is anyone from Eastern Canada here? And over there as well. So legal land descriptions are not consistent across the country. Some areas that have been settled longer will say that nice corner to that tree to that rock is my land. Well, the tree's been gone for 100 years. I don't know where the corner's gone because it's slid in, right? It's just not consistent, and this is a national system. In Alberta, we don't even have consistency. We have the French river lot system up in the north and in the central parts, and we have the English block system. And then to tie on top of it, you've got a lot of federal-owned lands. So all those things have their own elements we have to take care of, and it's a national system that needs to address it. To date, we have over 40,000 premises identified and verified. This is a good start. This is a good start, but by no means are we done. We anticipate there might be 125,000 acreage owners that have companion animals that need to be in the system. So it's still uphill, but you know what? One cow, one horse at a time. Remember I mentioned that there's animals in the PID system beyond those priority species? Yeah? So this is a snapshot of the application. We've just recently changed it. So the government of Alberta is proud to say we no longer deal with asses. We roll them up with donkeys and other things. We just found there was too much differentiation. People didn't understand what the difference was, and we thought, you know what, make it simple. Our chief provincial vet at the time, Dr. Gerald Howard, said it's really not a deal breaker. So it's okay. We do deal with some things you might not expect, like bees. If you have a beehive, we need to know, because bees are a threat of disease. We also deal with a lot of poultry in captivity, whether it's ducks, pheasants, anything, we want to know. Urban agriculture is starting to have 1 or 2 birds in their backyard because they like fresh eggs. Good on them. Get a PID number, because you are a threat to the commercial industry, and perhaps from a zoonotic perspective as well, right? A lot of, Phil and I were talking about a lot of small animal vet clinics. We're going to have to make sure they understand that some of their clients need PID numbers. I mentioned earlier the potbelly pig, the Vietnamese potbelly pig, that's a pet. Well, we have one in Sherwood Park. She's quite famous, I think. She needs a PID number. You know, that young pig travels a lot, so who knows what she's bringing. We have yaks, wild boars, rabbits. I want to clarify, for meat, right? So I tell people, if it's your dog, if it's your cat, if it's a goldfish in a bowl or your budgie in a cage, so it's truly a pet, it's okay. But if you're raising them for meat, you're raising them for any type of food-related consumption, we want them in the system. Well, we want pigs in the system too. Oh, yes. Correct. Because they're a livestock animal, right? Horses throw people for a loop. You folks will know this better than most. A lot of people view them as a pet, a companion, a high performance. They're in the system. Reality is, horses end up in the food chain. We don't know which ones will, which ones won't. So they're part of it. But I am happy to say that we no longer have to deal with asses. So that's nice for those of us on the ground. PID in Alberta, who needs it? So good segue from the pet. Animal owners, and this applies outside of Alberta too, but definitely double check the regulations in your area to make sure some of the nuances, okay? Animal owners accept pets and wildlife, because we do get people saying, I have deer across my yard, do I need to get a PID number? I'm like, no. Are you registered? No. And operators of commingling sites. So first of all, what's a commingling site? Places where animals come together from different owners and commingle. So if you have an auction market, a community pasture, a vet clinic, a fairground, a racetrack, any of those types of things are considered a commingling site. Abattoirs, they need a PID number. What they need to do is apply for a premise ID account. The account is the simple information. It's your contact information, so we know who to contact and what type of entity. So we're going to say, are you a business or are you an individual? The reason we want to know that is, if it's a business, we may be able to contact one or two people, not just one, right? Plus it also gives us a sense of the size, because you're going to give us who your contacts are. So maybe there's two people that are in a position of authority on a business. And you're going to register your PID, your premises, pardon me, to obtain a PID number for that land location. And we're going to talk about that more. What are the exceptions? Sorry. Yes, so if you're, great question. If you're in something like an ag society or a group that has a volunteer board, we are counseling them to pick someone who is like maybe the top administrative person to be the contact. They may not have the legal authority to apply for the PID. It might have to be signed on the application by someone else, but they're our contact because they're the most consistent. Yeah. Our exceptions are animal owners who never, ever, ever have the care and control of their livestock or poultry. So a good example is people that always leave their horse at a stable. They never take care of it. So to be honest, they're not the ones we want to reach in an emergency, right? Animal owners of livestock pets, so this is our potbelly pig, such as potbelly pigs living indoors, need a PID number. They may think it's a pet, but it's a livestock animal. So PID, when is it required? We'll continue this on. It is used for completing livestock transportation documents like manifests and permits. It is used to apply for many agricultural grants, programs, and licenses. We're asking for it on license renewals for things like recreational fishing. They're on the list. To sell livestock at auction markets, that has been a regulation in effect since July 2014. You are going to start seeing this moving forward a lot more. And buy medication for animals. I want to spend a moment on this one because, especially for those of you that are in veterinary practices, this is important. Authorized medicine sales have been asking for PID numbers since around July 2014 because their regulation was changed. So if it's got a drug identification number, the producer needs to provide a PID number unless it's clearly for personal consumption or it's for pets or something like a dog kennel, because they're not on our list. ABVMA has been working with Alberta Agriculture because they see the value in this system, which I'm hoping when you walk out of the room, when we're done this presentation, you will see too. And we are strongly, strongly encouraging all veterinary clinics to be asking your clients for their PID number as part of their records. Voluntary, not regulated, from a social licensing perspective, simply because of the value and being able to quickly respond and address issues. Yes, sir.
So livestock are with multiple land locations, we have multiple
excellent segue.
So,
I have boxed pens. Come to the booth later. We'll give you some pens. Yes. So here's the thing. Right now, you only have to register your main operation where all your animals, or the majority of your animals, are housed, right? What we want you to do as a producer is register those multiple premises that maybe are not connected or contiguous. And the value behind that is, if there's an outbreak, we'll stick with disease. Let's say right here is where there's a disease outbreak. Diseases have their own personality, yes? So our area at risk will vary depending on the disease, the spread and transmission, all of that varies. If you have land, your home quarter is up here and your secondary quarter is here that you move your livestock to for grazing or something, they're in this area of risk. If we don't know you're there, we won't contact you. You may inadvertently bring those animals back to the main operation and infect your main herd because we don't know how to contact you. Good example for those of you that work a little bit better with analogies. I mentioned earlier I grew up on a community pasture way out in the bush. We bought land that shared a fence line at the community pasture, cleared it, picked roots, the whole bit. Peace country for pioneers. Did everything. We moved about 20 kilometers, no, I'm a liar, 20 miles away. But we kept that land. Partly because we picked so many bloody roots, no one wanted to get rid of it, but partly because it was in a different location, a great place to move the animals if we were ever struggling on the land that we were now living on. It was so far away that if it was not registered with its own PID, if something happened, in our case, to community pasture, which we literally shared a fence line, and we brought that herd home, we wouldn't know what we just reintroduced back to the 500 head that are at home. So it is important to encourage producers to register multiple premises. If there is a public road separating them, even though they're across the road, and I'm smiling because there's someone in the room I talked to this about the other day and she brought up this example, which is excellent. You may think of it as one operation, but really, that public road, maybe the way your land sits, you know, let's say this is the public road here, and just the way the circle comes, it goes right there, we're not going to know. We can't let you know. Does that answer your question?
I guess so. Yeah. I in terms of my question is for vet clinics for registering PID, you just register the home one, not wherever else the cattle are.
For your own cattle?
For if we're supposed to mark down the PID when we sell them a bottle of grass.
Oh, yes, for the main operation. Yeah. They may give you a PID number for a more remote area because they want you to know that's where it's going, and that's fine. But most times they're going to have that main operation. Okay. So best practices for commingling sites, which you guys are. First of all, provide your site users or event participants with your PID number. They need to use it to complete manifests and permits. If you're a vet clinic, they obviously don't have to complete a manifest when they come to see you unless they're taking it somewhere else. But you don't necessarily know all those details. Plus, it's a good way to let them know that this is something that you've done and you have. We encourage producers to keep good records even when they go to the vet clinics. So you may get asked at some point from someone. All Alberta agriculture PID numbers start with an A, and then there's a series of 7 numbers after it, numbers and letters. You could see an AA, an AB, an AT, and then whatever's after that is just random. And they're all valid. If you ever have a question or concern, wondering if your number is valid or if it's still accurate, you can just call 310 Farm, and they'll help you out or they'll pass you on to one of us. Place posters about PID and how to apply in visible places so that your producers understand, especially if you're asking them to provide it for drug information or DIN products, then they know where to go and get that help, and it takes some of the stress off you. And we're going to be working with ABVMA on some of these steps moving forward. Ask your site users or event participants for their PID number. So we are strongly encouraging ag societies, we're working with them right now, which are most of your rodeos and fairs and stuff, to request PID numbers on their registration forms. We're also encouraging you to request PID numbers on your client records. So you have it, it's easily accessible. so that if there is a reportable, notifiable disease that we need to contact you for support or help with, it's there. It just takes time out of the process, and you'll see as we move forward why that's so important. Organize information sessions for your staff volunteers, in the case of this one lady's example where there's people rotating in and out, and site users. People sometimes just don't know. It's not that they're belligerent, it's not that they don't want to do it, they just don't know.